Yeah, somebody asked me. Yes. Yeah, yeah. I just I just started recording.
Class challenge Vritika, go. I'm on the class. I'm on the class, not right now. Now that's it. Done.
I'm just moving on to the details of the graduation program first, where for us to start with the course, actually, what are the advantages of the qualifications or actually experience that we have, or the knowledge of both any idea about the basic clinical research process or pharmacovigilance process, and how actually we will actually teach you on the US as well as the non-US regulations, which is one of the biggest classifications that actually nowadays, where FDA being one of the prime organization that actually who will be the customers of any of the drug safety departments of the pharma company. So in this regard, actually, when we start, all these competencies are actually either if you're already competent, it will sharpen your skills further. And if you don't have any idea about it, still actually we will teach you to actually sharpen through our courses to have these core competencies, which will definitely help you to actually secure a job in the market. So first, on the understanding of the operational aspects of drug safety or pharmacovigilance, both drug safety and pharmacovigilance sometimes actually are the terms that are used interchangeably. But also, when we talk about both, actually, the impact on labeling or the consumers, or actually it can be HCPs, and on public health, on how the DSP is actually trying to pull what it is actually has to pull and help the consumers. When we say actually adverse event reporting or the drug safety, the information that we actually collect can be from the variety of sources that includes any person after taking a medication who can actually directly give a call. It can be a consumer in case of US, and in case of actually European Union, it must be through a HCP, even though if the information received from a consumer, there is a responsibility lies with the pharma companies to get a contact information or a consent from the healthcare professional of that particular consumer, and then we get back to get actually to medically confirming the information from a healthcare professional, post which will decide whether that particular report needs to be reported to health authority or not. And then the one of the basic skill that we need is, we do know that actually collaboration with the other departments are always going to be helpful. It is applicable for the drug safety departments as well, because we might have to deal with pharmacoepidemiology departments or the preclinical or regulatory departments, as well as the medical affairs, risk management, and clinical development departments. These are all actually kind of various departments that exist inside a pharma company, along with actually the marketing and legal departments as well. So the more actually we know where to reach in case of actually as a drug safety, if we talk about drug safety, there are two bigger classifications, where actually we start with the ICSRs, what we call it as actually individual case safety reports, which is one of the basic units of a collection of safety information about various drugs for whatever the company that we work on. We try to actually collect the details. That starts with ICSR, and then since actually if you look at the current industry trend, FDA itself is receiving close to 2 million reports per year from other companies that is actually around the world, and also actually the companies in the US, depending on the reportability. So as we know that actually thousands of companies which is having actually more than thousands of people in their safety departments trying to actually process these ICSRs and send it to FDA. So it is not actually operationally possible to look at all the reports which is already processed by the drug safety teams of various pharma companies. Getting reviewed by FDA is a bigger task. So what FDA does is actually they try to come out with the further elevated reports, which acts as a collaborative view of all the ICSRs that we received in a time frame, like every 6 months or every 1 year. We call it as PBRS aggregate reports against ICSR versus aggregate reports, where in aggregate reports there are varieties of reports like PBRR, PSUR, DSUR. So all these collated reports, which actually
I'm sorry
gives
to
us.
interrupt here, Dr. Selva. We
Yeah,
cannot see that slide that you might be presenting for this.
really, 1 minute.
Sure.
Thank you for informing. Let me share it again. Are you able to see now?
Yes.
All right. So as I was mentioning on the cross-functional aspects, where actually we have multiple departments to reach out to put a completion when it comes to both ICSRs as well as the aggregate reports, which is the core part of drug safety when it comes to the analysis of the medication and its performance over a specific frequency of period. As I mentioned, it can be a 1 year report, or it can be a 6 month report, or it can be once a 2 year report, depending on the maturity of the product. So for us to actually build that report is basically to help FDA easily identify what is the increased risk that has happened over the last 2 years, or actually how our patients got benefited because of the medicine in the last 2 years, and how the number of adverse events got reduced for the last 2 years, or the specific frequency period for which actually we are studying. So that for that to happen, actually, we need to collaborate with multiple parties inside the company. And then the basic knowledge of cycle of drug development, which if many of you are health professionals probably would have actually gone through the basic drug development cycles, including the information on pharmacokinetic as well as the pharmacodynamic interactions of drug. And also it will be an additional advantage to know the knowledge of good clinical practice as well as the ICH guidelines, along with FDA's 21 CFR, which is 21 Code of Federal Regulations, specifically having actually many of the parts of the regulations of FDA. You can look at the parts like part 1, part 11, part 50, 54. These are all actually kind of regulations which is actually essential for us to uh, actually know uh, know the basics of drug safety as well as the pharmacovigilance, and also part of clinical research. So in our session, actually the sessions for these courses, we will go through exclusively on each of these regulations to get you know about the common regulations that help you when you attend interview. You can be prepared for any questions that actually comes from these regulations. And these regulations, as I mentioned, are applicable to drug safety or clinical research. And it talks about majorly we aim on FDA's regulations cleanly, along with actually being the next biggest market to have US is the European Union. So we do touch upon on the European Union regulations also on both the investigational medications as well as post-marketed products. And then we try to actually give you the knowledge of the standard components of the ICSRs. As I mentioned, we do actually give extensive information on actually how ICSRs are built up and how we collect information, and then actually how we put narrative as well as coding, the MEDRA coding of adverse reactions, where actually MEDRA, when I say it, is the medical dictionary for the regulatory activities, which is commonly followed across all the regulatory areas, including the drug safety. Along with actually, we talk about the labeling of the events according to the product prescription information in United States case, where actually USPA is the prescription information that we reference that label for the presence of any adverse event that we received, is whether actually it is expected or labeled for our product or not. And also we try to identify other items like actually any confounding history or the co-suspect medication. Basically try to put all this information to assess another important thing to see whether actually our drug has any role in creating that particular adverse event or not. And looking at the basic prerequisites, it is always advantageous to have actually strong medical or clinical expertise, which will definitely help as we progress through our career in the pharmacovigilance or in the risk management. And with a basic educational qualification of a life science degree, either it can be core medical or dental, or actually it can be paramedical stuff like nursing or pharmacy degrees. Any health professional related degrees are actually most advantageous. And if you look at actually in my last 2 years of association with Solars, we have actually helped many of the foreign degree holders, foreign physicians, where actually they are trained abroad and then actually they move to US, who actually started their career using this program. As we know that actually the USMLA and licensing on the for the medical practitioners is actually a very tough to go through the program in US. So if you want to actually take an additional path which can actually easily land you a job in PV, because actually in many companies are not requiring licensing as a requirement for working on the drug safety field. And so actually we help. So we help actually both medical professionals as well as the paramedics to go through this program to actually land a job in US. And previous experience on pharmaceutical or biotechnology or any CRO, where actually we talk about the contract research organization experience, or any experience in medical writing would be an additional attribute for you to actually go through this course. And these are all actually kind of prerequisites. But still, if you are in the very early phases or very fresher, just to actually finish your college, even still actually, you can develop these skills as part of the program. Any questions so far? And I'll try to address all the queries that you type, whichever Vandana can help you with. She will, and other questions I'll definitely see in middle, and we try to address them. So Shakira is asking, will we receive a copy of this document? And I think you may receive a recording, but the copy of the document may not be possible, Shakira. All right. Moving on to a simple slide that describes the various actions that happens in the PV process. Where to start with, as I mentioned, for any of us to start actually receiving information about the drug, we do know that actually in US, companies specifically set up various call centers through which actually we receive complaints about the products. It can be product complaints or it can be adverse events. So very common ones you would have already seen in the industry, where any television advertisements where they talk about a drug, definitely it is a requirement for them to provide a call center number or an email ID like drug safety at specific company, pharma company, like for example, like Merck.com or Pfizer.com. So they do actually provide you with email IDs or call center numbers where actually you can reach out to them in case actually we have specific adverse event after actually we take our drug. So when we look at the whole process of PV, it starts with continuous collection of adverse event. So if you ask me, um, when PV starts, we can definitely say that actually from the time actually we start testing drugs on humans, the PV process as such starts. Whereas if you ask me when it will be the end point, it is actually till the time the particular drug marketing is stopped in any of the parts of the world. So till the time it goes on and on and on. So if you look at how actually why we need to do this, a simple example of acetaminophen or paracetamol, where actually we know that it is one of the common OTC medication which has been in use for actually more than 50 plus years, or even more than that. So when we look at that, actually, after all these years, where many countries were actually using 500 mg as the common dose, acceptable dose of this particular medication, whereas very recently countries actually start changing the common dose to 325 mg, which has happened actually over a period of, as I mentioned, long periods of research. And sometimes actually we may think that actually whatever is currently we are doing is right, but these processes as such, actually how we set the PV process, are going to help us in actually recalibrating ourselves to see which is best for the society or best for the consumers when we take, and how actually it can be optimized to expose the people to medication with the least adverse events. And when I say adverse events, commonly everyone know it as side effects. So apart from for whatever the reason that we take, that's the particular indication for which we are taking the medication. If something else is actually happening to the patient, they tend to actually report that to the pharma companies as per their advice. So that is what is actually known as the adverse event, and how that adverse event is getting reported. So if you look at the incoming part here, I hope you're seeing this picture, right, everyone? All right, I'll take it silent as yes. So if you look at the clock start date, the red one, if you look at actually, this is the clock, actually we call it as the regulatory clock. So for any pharma company, the moment any of the employee of their particular organization get to know about a side effect, the clock, the regulatory clock starts. So that is where actually, for example, if we are receiving a call in a call center at this point of time as we speak, then the first time actually we get to know the information about an adverse event after taking our company drug. If we are working for a particular pharma company and we receive this information through a call center, and they actually explain to you that this is what actually has happened. A patient has taken a medication for a headache, whereas actually he ended up with vomiting. So the vomiting became the adverse event, and the moment we get to this information, our clock starts. Okay, for the regulatory clock starts, and why this clock is very essential is this is what is actually basically designing actually the regulatory compliance of adverse event reporting for any of the pharma company. Okay, so if we have this clock started today, that means that depending on the seriousness of the adverse event and the expectedness or labeling of the adverse event, there is a requirement for us to report certain events to FDA. Okay, so for example, actually, if we receive an adverse event, which actually is a serious adverse event, that is either resulted in hospitalization, or it created a life-threatening situation, or it created a severe or a permanent disability. So all these are actually very serious things. So when such adverse events with seriousness are reported, and there is no mention about that particular adverse event in the labeling, that is the reference document that I mentioned. In case of US, it is USPI. So the leaflet that we get whenever actually we buy a medicine. That leaflet is what is known as the United States packaging set. And when we get that information, in that actually under the advertisement section, there is no mention about the particular event that we got reported, meaning it fits the criteria of serious and it fits the criteria of unlisted or not labeled in the reference. Then we have the responsibility to report it to the FDA. So and there is a third factor in this combination where we call it as causality, which is nothing but the relationship of our drug, particular drugs involvement in creating that adverse effect. Usually it will be given by a reporter, or actually it can be decided by the medical physicians who actually are part of the drug safety, where they will decide from the companies, from the pharma companies side, whether actually the company causality, company decides, or actually what is the company's take on whether actually the drug has a causality or not. Okay, just give me a minute. Sorry for that. So we are on the causality, right? So causality is the third factor that is needed, where all the positive causal or adverse events needs to be reported to the FDA, meaning serious, unexpected, and positive causality adverse event needs to be reported to the FDA. In FDA, there is one special clause, or actually as an exception, where when it comes to the FDA reporting, all consumers, as you can look at, any consumer can directly call and report to the pharma companies, where actually they will be considered as a valid report, even though there is no involvement of a health professional confirming whether actually that adverse event actually happened or not. And why this is actually US FDA try to collect as much as information about the products that is marketed in US, and because of that actually they even waived for spontaneous cases, spontaneously, if it is coming from a consumer, if it is coming from any physician, or if it is coming from a pharmacist. So as far as actually there is a report that is given to a company and somebody has taken an effort in calling and actually reporting it, they actually give a plus kind of actually they automatically give have taken that actually they take a stand on causality, which is known as the implied causality. So for spontaneous reports that is getting reported from consumers or health professionals, the fact of just serious adverse event matching whether it is unexpected, these two are actually more than enough to get reported to FDA. So, so all this incoming reports, when you look at an adverse event report, may come from consumer, or it can actually come from a business partner or other manufacturer. So just to give a brief, business partners are actually same kind of pharma companies where actually we have a link with. Whenever actually imagine 2 or 3 companies collaborating together to create a one product. So meaning that actually, for example, a company from European Union region and a company from US is actually collaborating to create a joint development of a product, and where one company has a responsibility in US and the other company has responsibility in EU. So in this scenario, they become business partners. So whenever some information is actually received by one of the business partners, it is the responsibility of the business partner to send the same report to the other business partner, so they can also use and report it to their responsible authorities. So that is known as the business partners. And when it comes to the other manufacturers, so for example, we do have actually thousands of pharma companies in US. So when we receive adverse event report, any company when it receives an adverse event report from a consumer, it is not actually essential that they will receive only information about the particular company's products, right? So if Merck is actually receiving a particular adverse event, and along with that they are mentioning that along with Merck's company's product, they are saying two other products which also has been actually taken with the time the patient is actually having the adverse event, meaning that there are three suspect products in a case. So we will process a case based on actually our drugs reportability, and it is the responsibility of the other manufacturing companies, meaning actually for other companies products we are actually the other manufacturers. So we need to send the report. We try to identify who can be the actual company which produce that particular other co-suspect medications, and it is our responsibility to submit a report to them. So these kind of reports will come from other pharma companies where they received our company adverse event with our presence, our company's drugs presence in their report. So they will send to us. So this is another kind of incoming. And the third one is clinical trials. As we all know that actually when it comes to the clinical trials, there is phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. So all part of IND phase, and then actually move to the post-marketing phase. So in the clinical trial phase, so as company we sponsor some trials or we collaborate with some other partners where actually we try to run a joint trial. So whatever the adverse event reports that comes from these trials is another way of actually incoming. So when I say this, actually it can be serious adverse events, because in the clinical trials current requirement is actually we only submit serious adverse events, and then actually we submit that to FDA based on the SUSAR criteria that I mentioned, where meaning SUSAR is actually serious, unexpected and suspected adverse reactions. So when all the three factors of seriousness and unlistedness and a positive causality from the company, then actually it matches the requirement of submission to FDA. So that reports are also received from worldwide. If it is a company which is running a multi-centric trial in 3 or 4 geographies across the world, so we try to actually collect the details from the clinical trials in the form of SAEs, which is the serious adverse events form. And then there is a unique way of actually the requirement where nowadays health authorities are actually becoming more and more scrutinizing the pharma companies, as well as they are also actually developing their own capability to report certain adverse events if it comes from varieties of pharma companies, and then actually it has multiple suspect drugs. So they are actually right now giving accesses to their databases on a weekly frequency, on a bi-weekly frequency. The companies need to go and download certain informations from the health authorities website, where you can download all related your product related adverse events that has been reported in that particular period of time, where you can download and cross verify it with the database. And wherever actually we didn't receive a report directly, whereas health authorities have received that report, then we will process that also as an adverse event from our side. And then the publications part, where these are nothing but the literature articles, the famous websites like PubMed or actually any other journals where the scientists are actually publishing their literature. And in those literatures, if they talk about particular drug which is actually from our company, and there is an adverse event that happened during the use of that company, so that can be the literature reports incoming. Literature also actually comes under the spontaneous reporting when it comes to the FDA's reporting item. And then the last kind of incoming can be others, where actually the current development of the technological era, where we started with the all social media, blogs and other items, where if you receive certain information about adverse event from these pathways, we still actually collect those information. So all of these incoming items are nothing but the adverse event information. So as for us, um, any of the reports that incomes that is actually coming into the company has basic four elements of an ICSR matching, then it will become a valid case. So when I say four basic elements, let me spell it out to you. So the first one is presence of an adverse event. Second is presence of a company suspect drug. Third is presence of an identifiable patient. And the fourth is presence of an identifiable reporter. When all these four are present as information in the report that comes through any of the sources, then the basic elements, four elements of case is fulfilled, and that means we have a valid ICSR that needs to be processed and submitted within a specific timeline. So when I say this clock start date and submission date, and the interim period is what actually I talk about, where within how much time we need to submit. So whenever actually there is a serious adverse event and unexpected and related causal event is received by a pharma company, if in the seriousness criteria, if it belongs to a life-threatening adverse event or an adverse event which caused fatality, so the event which results in death and life-threatening events matching the SUSAR criteria, then they need to be submitted within 7 calendar days to the FDA after going through all these steps. So when these steps during the processing, all the steps in starting from case receipt, triage, data entry, medical review, and then case review or quality review, and then directly get into distribution for submission into the FDA's kitty. So all the steps needs to be done within that 7 calendar day time period. And the moment actually if it misses that 7th day, that means actually you created a late report. So which companies try to avoid, because as small as 5 to 10 cases sometimes actually if it gets reported late in case of actually some significant specific events related to hepatic or related to pancreas. So FDA might want to come for an inspection to a company, which every company try to avoid. So this is more and more important for the operations of the company to be successfully running our product and market, because when inspection comes, it can have varieties of implications. Even the most important thing or the most uh, crucial thing is on actually FDA putting a ban for your drug, or actually stopping marketing for a couple of months of your drug, where everything is going to be a big revenue loss for the pharma companies, which we try to stop. So that is why actually our job, or as a drug safety associate or as a medical reviewer, it is much important when it comes to the work that we do. We try to actually save millions of dollars for the company. So it becomes the regulatory obligation for the company to be making sure that actually they run their safety departments and they do the procedures as it is actually dictated by the health authorities. So all these steps that I just talked about, these are all actually kind of workflows that is actually existing in the drug safety databases. So when we say drug safety databases, uh, it can be customized safety databases that is actually developed by a pharma company, or it can be commercially available safety databases like Argus or ARISG or CleanTrace. There are actually many commercially available, in which Argus is the current software which is actually widely used for its fantastic capabilities of uh, reporting when it comes to the compatibility that it can actually have with varieties of health authorities websites. So as we move through the technical era, even FDA has completely stopped accepting paper reports. So everything is actually online. So any report that we prepare, it can be ICSR, it can be agreed, everything actually getting submitted to FDA via online only. So either by integrating our system in the backend with the FDA's gateway, or actually they provide certain links where actually you can go and upload your completed document. So there is a question. Paul is asking, how long does the whole pharmacovigilance process take? So in general, actually, there is no time period. As I mentioned, the moment we start the developing of a drug, from that time till the time actually any company is marketing the same drug in US or in any other country, we try to actually collect the adverse event information. So till the time we have that marketing uh, done by the company, any person, any company having the market authorization holding in US, the pharmacovigilance process continues. Right. And then this all the steps are actually belonging to the individual case safety reporting. And as I mentioned, life threatening and death reports needs to go in 15 days. Other serious reports which matches the same criteria need to be reported within the 15-day timeline. And all the 7-day reports I mentioned, it is exclusively for the drugs which are in the IND phase. That is, the study is in the developmental phases of either phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3 uh, clinical studies. As in case of spontaneous, there is no need for 7-day reporting. It is only 15-day reporting. So that is what is about the ICSR. So after processing, it gets actually submitted and delivered on time to the regulatory health authorities is their prime consumer when it comes to receipt of reports. And then actually at the same time we are submitting the reports to health authorities, there are submissions rules that we set up where if the same report needs to be reported to the business partners or other manufacturers, they also receive the report. So this is uh, the uh, the part that you are looking at. All are actually of the ICSRs. There is the individual case safety report, and then comes uh, the aggregate reports, as I mentioned. So if you look at this as a database, so all the information that we collect as part of ICSR goes into the database, and then we try to pull listings. It can be a 6-month listing, as I mentioned, or it can be a yearly listing. We receive reports and classify them based on various kinds of seriousness, then various kinds of therapeutic areas to analyze, to see what is the difference, or actually whether our drug safety profile, that what we actually end up in the last year, whether it will, is there a change in the drug safety profile of a drug, is there a chance of, or actually is there a probability of increase of a particular example for the incidence of myocardial infarction or incidence of heart failure or incidence of kidney failure, whether it has actually any probable increase in percentages which is significant this year. So we try to analyze that by running the line listings from the database. We collect those details which we have already collected over the last year, and then we move them into a listing, and then actually we analyze based on different bucketing that is possible, which is actually happening in the aggregate reports department. So if you work in ICSR for 3 years or 5 years and get a good experience in ICSR, the next level of your career is moving into as an aggregate reporting writer. And then actually after a couple of years or some 3 to 4 years of aggregate reporting, where you can be a lead author of that particular report, and then actually you can move to an additional step when it comes to the after aggregate reports, you may go even into the writings of risk management reports as well. So that's how actually the subject matter expertise increases from step by step from ICSR to aggregate to risk management plan. And if you want to actually take your career on the administrative angle or actually as the management angle, you can actually become a team handler where you become a team lead and then a team manager, or and then actually you can move into a managers and then to associate directors. So when it comes to the pharma industries, even versus physicians. So physicians has a different uh, career path where actually they start as a medical reviewer, where you can look at actually they are the responsible persons for the medical cohesiveness of the case. After you starting as a medical reviewer, then you become a senior medical reviewer, and then actually you may become part of uh, the medical safety assessment, like how I mentioned aggregate report for physicians. The aggregate report needs to be reviewed by medical safety physicians. So you become MSAP, and then actually you can go up to the level of the RMP approving medics, where actually it needs to be approved by the medics, where you also become the part of RMP. And irrespective of whether actually you are a medic or a non-medic, there are always chances where actually you can go up to the level of director or associate director level. Easily you can actually grow your career into that kind of positions very easily. And some companies actually they keep physician qualification as a basic for becoming a vice president of the drug safety departments. So in those scenarios, physicians go even up to the level of vice president of drug safety departments. And that's how actually the whole process happens. And all these reports get submitted to FDA, and not only FDA, to any of the health authorities as needed. Imagine if we as a company are selling our drug in 5 countries, then it must go and actually get reported to all the countries' health authorities. So this is how actually it's a very nice picture where actually it gives you the exact information on actually what is happening in the PV process and the drug safety process. And when we say about the submissions, as I mentioned, it can be the primary units of collective units of data for drugs on the adverse events is ICSR, and then it gets converted into PBRERS, which is periodic benefit risk evaluation report, or periodic safety update reports, or developmental safety update report, or risk management plan. All these are actually collective reports that comes from the data of ICSRs. And also actually this helps in actually updating the label. So for example, when we look at actually labeling, as I mentioned, the United States packaging, it's a label, and it's a ever growing label of information. When I say it's like every time there is an update, it can be 6 month update, or actually it can be as and when critical safety information comes into place, then it gets updated. So at that point of time, when you first go for marketing of a drug, your adverse event section may have only 30 to 40 events. Whereas after going into the market, after reaching to the market with actually plenty of people started actually taking our drug, that 30 to 40 number of advertisement list may increase it to 100 number list, and then it becomes even 120 or 140. With time grows, the labeling information obviously actually grows to reach to a level where actually it is continuously growing as a document. So that labeling also get drafted by the information that we collect. That's how when during the early stages where a particular adverse event is unexpected for a drug, and then after the later part of research, after 2 years or 3 years of collecting of adverse event report, the unexpected adverse event can become an expected adverse event, which is part of information actually we collect as part of drug safety. All right, so that's how this thing happens. So when I say label, USPA is actually when a drug reaches the market, then it is called as the USPA, or the label for US. And before that, during the IND stages, it is IB updates, which is nothing but the investigator's brochure, we call it as. So during the IND stages of a drug, the investigator's brochure is the reference document that is referenced by the physicians who are doing the research, that is the clinical investigators. For them, this is the core document based on which they try to elicit a particular drug reaches the SUSAR criteria or not. Right. So let me take a pause and actually listen to any of your questions.
You can unmute when you questions.
Yeah. All right. In case there are no questions, let's further progress. So, dwelling into the from the process actually on how our course is actually going to help you with trying to actually build up the important skill sets, which you should be actually developing over the course, starting from the knowledge of all the workflows that I mentioned in the Argus or in any of the databases, starting from data entry or sometimes commonly called as case processing team, followed by a quality control or coding, and then actually different workflows, including case processing workflow, moving to medical review workflow, and then moving to quality review, and then to submissions. So all these are actually essential workflows that is present. And as I mentioned, various databases, including Argus, ARISG, and Meta coding is actually part of both Argus and ARISG, where every adverse event that we capture in the adverse event screen along with actually history or indication, the medical concept gets actually coded by the Medra because it is actually easy for analyzing and understanding when we use a standard coding procedure. That is why actually all the regulatory practices that includes that is actually involved in adverse event processing, we use Medra coding as a standard. And then we try to actually provide the knowledge of components of causality determination and the company relevant labeling documents, which is, as I mentioned, the company core data sheets or United States package insert or SMPCs are actually nothing but summary of product characteristics, which is used in Europe. And then understanding and knowledge of study protocols and standard operating procedures along with IBs when it comes to the uh, products which are in the developmental phases. But also we try to actually instill some of the important leadership and critical thinking skills, which will definitely help you if you become a strategic thinker and helps in decision making skills, especially on the timely coordination. Because as I mentioned, the time is very, very less when it comes to the SUSAR reports, where you must report within 7 calendar days. It's not actually business days. So even our Saturdays and Sundays included. So you need to be very, very crucial in prioritizing those information and identifying those information which comes from a clinical study that has a potential 7-day reporting cases. And as soon as actually we receive, we try to actually triage it and move through the various workflows and follow up continuously to reach that particular report within day 7 to FDA. So you need to be good in coordination. It also actually takes the ownership of the case and has good organizing as well as the prioritizing skills. So when 10 cases are given at any day, as a person, you must know which is the first case to start with. It's not about just giving the serial number 1 to 10, whereas you should know and you should prioritize in order to reach the regulatory compliance, because in 10 cases, the current ratio is only 2 or maximum 3 cases might have the requirement to move to FDA. So as soon as actually you prioritize and identify them and move them out, you are safe for the day and you can do the rest 7 cases in a slow paced manner to do complete your work day. And then we try to actually instill and know the importance of the documentation that needs to be followed. Always follow all the written documentation in support of the PV activities, uh, including the standard operating procedures and safety management plans and work instructions any company have. So following SOPs are actually very, very essential in the regulatory space and the drug safety space also. At any point of time, the work that you do today is going to be the discussion topic for an audit or an inspection at a later point of time. So we need to be uh, dealing this with the highest criticality. So it's a very responsible question, and you need to be actually very knowledgeable. You need to develop that skill and learn. And if you are assigned as a specific product representative, you need to be knowing about that particular product in and out, so that actually you help other team members when they actually come to you for help. And moving on to the communication skills, which is definitely is one of the important skills, because of the various collaboration that we need to have. You need to actually communicate effectively, both in written as well as in verbal communication. Along with, try to we as professionals might have the responsibility of reaching to the customers or consumers who report these cases or the investigative sites to get more follow-up information. So we need to be highly professional in communicating with them, and also the ability need to be working as a team as needed is also an important factor, along with uh, compliance of all the requirements of the advertisement reporting and the urgency of the advertisements as and when you identify the criticality of a day 7 report, so or a day 15 report. One key thing is, you might receive a case on the clock start date, but sometimes the internal departments might not have reported that case to you on the same day only. So even though you may have 15 days for a serious unexpected report, spontaneous ones, but if you receive it on a 13th day, still case processing need to, drug safety department need to turn around the case within 2 days to be compliant. Meaning every department inside the starting from the call center or starting from the email looking departments, every department needs to work very cohesively to achieve and use this particular time period. Because if you made it late, irrespective of which department it's made late, we will write CAPAs and preventive things, but you cannot afford to miss actually many reports. So that's why it is very important to everybody to know and prioritize their work, which is more important in the drug safety law. Okay, and then also this being a very fast-paced environment, and the attention to detail is one of the important skill, because actually you might need to compare the reports, the previous version report with the current version report, in order to know what is the additional information that came in a recent follow-up. So attention to detail will help you easily move through the cases as and when actually you identify the information in the follow-up report. That means half case you have already processed. And then the whole pharmacovigilance and risk management, as we know, actually it comprises of various activities related to PV, that's starting to identify, characterize, prevent or minimize the risk. So all the activity that we do as part of drug safety are majorly aiming to minimize the risk or minimizing the unnecessary exposure of the drug or to unnecessary exposure of the adverse event that might happen to a patient. So we try to actually minimize that by collecting more and more information about our drug and trying to actually elicit the relationship, and try to actually alter the dose or actually change certain aspects of the drug to minimize the adverse events that might actually happen to a previous set of patients. So comparatively, year by year, we try to actually reduce the incidences of adverse events. That's the whole concept of actually the working part of drug safety and pharmacovigilance. If you look at the current industry analysis, and maybe by 2025, the PV market is actually going to at least reach more than a $10 billion industry, and it grows at actually a very steady pace. And as you know, even during the pandemic period, one of the very few businesses that still actually were working full time is on the pharma end to actually come out with the vaccines and other things, where we have seen one of the fastest developing vaccines in the whole history of the world, where actually we were able to try to bring a vaccine within actually 1.5 year that happened, and right now actually almost half of the world is already vaccinated. So very standard industry, as you know, and actually the roles are ever increasing only because of the competition that's coming to the market. The more and more companies are actually working on more and more molecules to make their actually presence in the market and getting the approvals, which is actually kind of a growing market. And if you look at census as of 2020 December, uh, this is, if you look at actually FDA approximately received close to 8 million serious adverse events, and even actually uh, 1 million plus deaths associated with adverse drug reactions. And this is not going to stop because many a times actually we do follow the most scientific manner, most scientific way of actually approaching a research. But it doesn't mean that actually the risk of patients who are dying, either it may be because of medicine or actually not because of the medicine. But when it comes to the adverse drug reactions, these are all actually related adverse reactions to the drug. So need to be, we try to actually reduce this number year by year is what actually our success lies in. All right, and that's how actually the drug safety operations generally. So if you look at the course that we just talked about, the certification, which is the advanced drug safety program, where actually it has a structure of 300 hours, and I think it is taken over a period of 6 months, starting from 2 or 3 modules, where actually first is on the DSP 601, where actually I'm the one who actually conducts the 601, where we talk about all this drug safety and regulations part, which includes 3 macro modules: drug development process, and then ethics of human subject protection, and the good clinical practice in clinical trials. So all this is actually part of the DSP 601 module. And then we also have DSP 602, which talks about the organization and functions of the drug safety department, meaning actually how the sample drug safety department is set in a pharma company. We talk about all the ethical issues of business and medicine, how actually it has become complex and difficult day by day. And this module also has 3 macro modules. First is on the ethics, honesty, and business dynamics at play. And then it talks about understand and actually drug safety department, understanding of the drug safety department, along with the training in drug safety career for new hires. So these 3 are actually modules of DSP 602, and then followed by aggregate reporting, which was actually a recent addition to the particular program, where in very rare scenarios, aggregate reporting are actually commonly dealt as a separate topic or a separate course only, whereas actually we try to include this to provide you an additional knowledge and an edge over the other students or actually other competitors in the interviews, where actually we also talk about the periodic reporting and how actually these reports are built up. And it is a 45-hour module where actually we split into 20 hours of theory and 20 hours of hands-on using the Argus safety. We try to pull reports, and actually after pulling report, how to frame the structure of the aggregate reporting for PSURs and PADERs and PBRs, different sections of PBRs and PADERs. Everything is actually we are covering over this period to for you to actually know information firsthand on the aggregate reporting. And then actually we also cover DSP 603, which is the regulatory compliance for drug safety and PV. It also includes 3 modules, one on the PV and regulatory needs, and then exclusive scenario on FDA, and then along with the third on the other markets, Europe, then how actually COMS and ICH and other international regulatory bodies are working. Followed by 604 and 605. 604, we talk about core aspects of AE reporting and how post-marketing activities are different compared to the investigational activities, and we details about the information on the various reportable requirements and how actually different products or certain specific products might have expedited reportings that need to be followed. All this will be covered in 604, and then in 605 we try to actually explain to you on the hands-on of Argus safety application. Argus is, as I mentioned, one of the commonly used commercially available safety databases. So if you, the moment you know that actually you worked on Argus, it definitely actually adds value to you when you are actually facing an interview, and also how actually the challenges on capturing certain items and how the Argus need to be used and how report get generated. All this information, including giving a hands-on on actually processing of some number of cases to you also happens. We provide you so that actually you work like actually you're working in the environment. So live cases, sample cases provided to you is where you will be doing thorough case processing, and also our professors will discuss these cases where actually you try to discuss between the people on various events you capture and how to pull extract and events from the report and how to actually work on labeling. All this are actually happening as you actually work in the environment, which is actually definitely an eye opener for many of the people, because in many of the courses where they just talked about the theoretical part, we actually train you guys in practical as well. And then the internship, which is 612, DSP 612. This internship is what actually I right now talked about on the Argus. Apart from the introduction, we give you the licensing, license. We have licenses as a company, as Solers actually. We have the license of Argus, and we provide you actually with the user IDs and password where you can log in and you can process at least 5 to 10 cases depending on actually different severity of the cases, starting from non-serious cases, serious cases, and then actually pregnancy cases, and then actually you talk about medication error cases. So various kind of cases actually we try to provide to you so that actually you know what to do when in the actual scenarios as well. So it actually this exercise specifically has been actually liked by many of the people, and many of the feedbacks that we receive from our old students actually that this really helped them in getting to the job, and also while performing the job also they have an edge, like they already know Argus, and when they actually getting trained, their experience during their trainings in their companies are also actually very helpful for them. So this internship is of 12 weeks of time, where actually 8 weeks we deal with ICSR and 4 weeks for aggregate reporting. So as I mentioned, we make you process the various cases starting from serious, and then lack of address cases, meaning actually for any prescribed unapproved indication, medication taken for unapproved indication, or lack of efficacy, or actual IND cases, study cases. And then spontaneous literature also, we try to provide you some examples along with invalid cases. So invalid cases are nothing but I talked about the basic 4 elements of ICSR. In that case, if not all the 4 elements are there, then it becomes invalid case. And we capture at least as far as event and drug is there, and no reportable patient information or no reporters information is there. Then actually we still process these cases in the database with the minimal information that we have. Those are known as invalid cases. With that, actually we covered the graduation certification program. Then moving on to master's program, where I would say actually if you have a long-term plan to actually reach and stay in the drug safety department for a longer time, definitely this is actually one of the courses that helps you in understanding. So the first information that I would like to say is that our certification program actually is also covered in this 2-year program. And so the 6 months period that actually we talked about also covered in this master's program. Here we talk about all the concepts of drugs life cycle along with actually all the guidelines, where when it comes to the guidelines and principles, we talk about WHO guidelines, FDA guidelines, EU guidelines, along with actually some other local market guidelines like actually Japanese Health Authority and other Canadian health authorities, those requirements as well. And then how clinical research processes works along with the clinical trial management. And we talk about the wholesome Argus experience of triaging and then processing serious adverse events, data entry, and then how it moved to medical review, all those items, along with the project management and specific functions of drug safety physician, especially for the physicians, where actually what physicians achieve and actually what is their role, focusing on MEDRA and then adverse drug reactions, and how actually they write the narratives or rewrite the narratives to give a meaningful collection of information to the adverse event reports. We also train you on risk evaluation and mitigation strategy, which is the REMS requirements along with the risk management plans, but also on the specific exposure on internship training, which is 20 plus week of internship training in where actually we train you on a couple of tools of clinical research, clinical conductor tool, and then electronic trial master file for clinical trial management based on elective sections. And then we talk about the detailed trainings in meta coding and various types of medical narrative writing for SAE reports also we touch upon. So these gives you a gist of actually collection of various information across the drug safety space. So we have actually 4 semesters where you start from the first 6 months is on collective courses of 601, 2 and 3 and 4, which we just actually talked about as a part of our graduation program. And then in semester 2 we get into the introduction of Oracle along with specific parts of clinical research, and then literature review, which is another big process that comes under the safety, along with project management that covers into the semester 2. And then semester 3 we exclusively touch upon on the aggregate reporting along with 2 electives. One is on the track 1 and the other one is track 2. The first one is on actually drug safety physician functions and their narrative writing part. The track 2 is on the actual core research, clinical research part, where using CTMS and the ETMF tools that we just talked about. And on the semester 4 is the project, where actually we talk about the capstone project along with details on signal detection as a course. So all these 4 semesters, if you get completed, you will be awarded the masters. This is what the so we'll go through the all the further explanations on actually how we deal with the various credits of semester 2, because semester 1 we already dealt with. In semester 2, literature review and project management are actually 2 exclusive items that, along with the adverse event reports, how we manage literature articles that we receive from the sources and that is getting published in the articles, how we collect and then how we try to identify the valid reports, and then how we actually process ICSR from the literature reports, along with core concept of project management, which is definitely will be helpful for you to know when you become a team leader or actually a team manager, where you need to know actually whatever is the project given to you, how classically you plan and execute and strategize is what is actually learned in the project management. And then on the aggregate reporting front, yeah, definitely I'll take you per hand with your information. When you complete this, actually you will be knowing the in and out of aggregate reporting, along with whatever is the electives that we select for. It can be the drug safety physician front, or actually it can be the clinical trial, core clinical trial front, where actually you get to know the actual tools. These tools, CTMS and ETMF tools, are actually currently, as we read through, these are actually currently applicable tools in the industry that is actually worked and used in many of the companies. And the last, majorly, we try to actually cover the capstone project with 5 credits, where it is consist of 10 hours of classroom sessions, and you will be regularly mentored by our professors to make sure actually your project gets a clear shape. Based on that, actually your credits will be evaluated. So almost we came towards the end of this program, and you can look at the recent success stories. And as I mentioned, actually many of the Asian and African countries graduates who actually moved to US. They were able to actually get their jobs. People who actually just completed the degrees as freshers also, they try to actually crack certain interviews. And some pharmacists actually who are well experienced in US, and then actually they're working as clinical pharmacist for X number of years, and then they try to actually try something new or move into the drug safety space for actually better uh, work-life balance. They tend to actually move towards the drug safety. And these are some of the examples of our students who already got placed. And you can look at the below email address, which is admissions@solars.edu, or use this phone number 848-299 and 5900, where you can reach out to our Solar's contact center, and you can get more information about our courses and the start dates and other associated items. So with that, I will take a pause and we come to an end. And I'd be more than happy to actually answer any of your questions. And I see Harita has asked some question: PV associate job or in location or remote jobs. So in the US front, Harita, actually in the last 1 to 1.5 year, many of the companies have actually moved to remote jobs where actually they deliver from home. And I think in the recent time, maybe in the last 2 to 3 months, some companies have actually opened up where actually right now they are requesting maybe weekly once or twice to actually go to locations also. It purely depends on the companies. Will you email this recording? Vandana, are we sharing this recording with all the participants?
Yes, we'll be
Yes,
sending it out tomorrow afternoon.
Sure. That answers your question, Shakira. So, any one of the participants where actually you're already working in US and you want to uh, make a career change? Do you have any questions? If that group is there.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, hi, this is Janardhan. I am a pharmacist, working in retail pharmacy. I have, a total of 16 plus years of experience, 10 years in pharmacy and 6 years in pharma industry. I just want to change, my career, where do I fit right now?
So you just mentioned that.
I have master's degree in, pharmaceutics.
Okay.
And it's overall 16 plus years of experience. So I just want to check 17 years of experience. So
All
where
right.
do I fit
So you said 10 years of clinical pharmacy experience.
yeah, retail pharmacy experience,
All
retail
right.
pharmacy, clinical pharmacy or retail pharmacy.
Yeah. So first, in order to actually get into the drug safety department, definitely your current experience will only counted after actually you move into the roles of drug safety. Maybe for entry level, actually you might enter at a one step or actually two step above the fresher level because of your experience and the qualification you have, but you have more chances of actually stepping up the ladder very quickly because of your already existing experience. But for you to enter, for example, actually we start at a drug safety 1 or drug safety 2. Drug safety 1 is actually where people who has 2 years of experience, who are less than 2 years of experience, join us or post fresher, where they join as a drug safety 1, whereas you may be at a senior drug safety associate when you enter into the roles of pharma company. But because of your experience, or if you already handle teams, after a couple of years of actually a senior drug safety associate, you can easily move into management.
Okay. So what are the pays for the senior safety person?
So yeah, for you're asking about the pay grade.
Yes, pay grade.
So in my experience, actually, any person who joins as a drug safety associate at the lowest level, minimum at least it may be varying from 60K to 80K, and for seniors it can go up to 100K.
Okay. Does it depends on the company that is hiring, or
it depends on the company it is hiring specifically, and the moment you become manager or actually associate director, even it can easily cross 150K.
okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking for options what I have.
Sure. Because
Okay.
in our experience, every batch at least the similar candidate like your experience, 18 years in pharma, retail pharma, 20 years in retail pharma, who was also actually part of our group.
Yeah, it means I was not sure whether it's the right thing to do or what. Just want to explore the options
Yeah, sure. Because when it comes to the pharmacist, majorly people work in the retail pharmacies because actually that is the most visible, easy part of a pharmacist job. Whereas actually there are a lot of pharmacists with MBAs, or actually a lot of pharmacists who went easily up to the level of directors in the inside the pharma companies, where actually they lead their groups. And as you know that till the time we are going to make drugs, the PV is going to be present. There is no worry there.
Okay.
Okay. And also, let me address Ajay's question. What will be the entry level job for a beginning with no experience in pharma? As far as you were qualified, either a pharma qualification or non-pharma qualification, any health professional qualification, in the entry level job, as a beginner, as I mentioned, you may be if you're looking for a clinical research positions, it can be CRA1, or it can be CRC also, clinical research coordinators. Whereas if you're looking for the drug safety, it starts with actually a safety reporter or a drug safety associate, which is the entry level. And they majorly do work on ICSRs that I talked about. So you receive individual reports. So every day you might receive 5 to 10 reports, or depending on the volumes of the company. So you need to process those 5 cases where actually you exactly transfer the information that is given in the source document, and you move into the clinical safety in the Argus safety database. Right. And Syed Ali, after finishing the advanced drug safety program, what is a typical entry job pay usually? I think I already answered that question. Right, Syed? You already got that answer? Yeah. JM has raised your hand. Please go if you have any questions.
Hi, thank you for hosting. Um, my name is Juan, and I have 22 years of clinical experience as an MD. I'm from Venezuela, and I have a master's degree in drug discovery and development. Having said this, I was considering looking at the certificate that you guys are offering at Solars for drug safety and pharmacovigilance. But I had a couple of questions. Number one is, do I get any credits towards the program based on the fact that I already have this master's degree from Drexel University? And second question is, those 12 weeks of internship that you guys offer with the advanced drug safety and pharmacovigilance course, 350 hours, um, do you guys help with the with finding the internship, or you guys actually just help us with the resume and leave it up to us to find a company that provides with the internship?
So thank you. And you, from what I hear, actually you have extensive experience as well as the qualification. So on the credits part, I think you need to reach out to our admission team, where actually they deal with each and every case, and depending on the number of courses that you already had, or a similar content course that you already had, means they might have to actually analyze and assess it, and then they will give you a detail. That is my answer for your first question. Whereas for the second question, the internship program is actually what we conduct. So where actually you can even update your resume as you are right now actually working as Solar's intern. So we don't actually during the internship we teach you as an intern on actually knowing the processing aspects of cases in the Argus. So if you're a medic, we will try to actually even help you with case processing as well as the medical reviewer as well. So that's the part of internship where actually we provide you with the details. And as we go through the course, actually, definitely we also guide you with a resume and the mock interviews as needed actually for actually attending any of the drug safety interviews, which will definitely ease you out when you attend a couple of mocks. Actually, you will be prepared to go with more confidence to any actual interviews. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I appreciate it. If you have time for one more question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I've been having interviews left and right. And even though I have a master's degree and I graduated with, with good grades, magna cum laude specific. Um, even though that is, my situation, um, I keep getting the same answer. Sorry, we decided to go with someone who has more experience than you, and fits better, this in our position. And to be honest with you, all the positions I've been applying for are drug safety associate entry levels. And what you see out there is, yes, it's entry level, but they most of the time ask for at least 2 years or minimum 1 year experience. I only have 3 months experience working for a CRO, but that seems to be not enough. So
All right.
I just wanted to know if having this certificate in drug safety and pharmacovigilance will provide me, with the tools that I need. Obviously, I know it's really hard to, but
Mhm.
what you've seen based on the experience after, the graduate finish the program, either masters or certificates, advanced or the standard one.
Sure, Swan. I hear you, and as you know, no, the one of the other aspect is you have plenty of experience, but actually you are applying for our entry level jobs because anyhow we need to enter into the market via entry level jobs only. And only thing, as you know, that when they ask for 1 year or 2 years, basically actually they want to know from you that actually you know the common terms and terminologies that is used in the drug safety, and actually you know the tools, or you know the drug safety database well. And if somebody talks about actually what are the various causalities that is available, how do you assess causality, so all this information we will actually cover in this 6-month program that we are doing as certificate graduations. So with that itself, actually you can be as fluent as a person who actually worked for 2 years in an industry you can answer. So that's how actually many of our people, many of our students actually easily get transferred. And as I mentioned for the other person, the moment actually you get an entry, maybe you just need to wait for a year or two to actually easily step up the ladder because of your already existing experience and qualifications. But it can easily happen. Basically, you know the crux of interview, right? Any interview you will go, the more actually you relate yourself, and the more that you know about the roles, the more actually you're felt suitable for that role by any of the interviewers. And also because you already have extensive experience when you try to actually apply for roles, see in case after if you decide to actually go for this program, you develop the skills that is actually needed in that 6 months to make sure even you can directly apply for a senior role, and you can prove yourself in stating that actually why I'm looking for senior role because of all the other experiences that I had definitely will be helping you with, along with the current knowledge that is needed for a drug safety role also I have. So you can prove that, and definitely you can crack the market.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I see Vandana has provided you the contact information also. So please feel free to reach out to our admissions. And Ajay has another question. I was a chemistry teacher and my experiences with teaching only. I'm trying for a career change in PB as I feel interested in the topic. How readily jobs are available for a person like me? So you have a master's or a bachelor's in chemistry, Ajay? All right. So if you have, it's like any basic science degree. So it's like certain companies have basically actually have the qualification as health professionals, or some companies have the options of actually using science graduates also. So for those companies, actually, when you find the roles itself, try to actually find whether first you are eligible for that particular companies as per their qualification norms, and depending on actually, even though you have the teaching experience, definitely you can be accepted into the roles of early level, entry level drug safety associate. Can be DSA 1 or DSA 2, depending on actually how you perform in the interview. It is possible, and there are fantastic science graduates even in my teams actually who perform as equivalent to health professionals. Once actually you spend a couple of years in the industry, you will be as good as actually other people, because it's all about actually learning each day and actually adapting to the changes, because the regulations changes every week or every month. So you how quick you are in actually getting that is actually more important. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the information.
Thank you, Janardhan. All right, Vandana. Any closing notes from you?
Nothing much. You covered it almost everything, Dr. Selva. And for the recording, I'll be sharing it tomorrow. And if anybody has any questions about anything to do with non-study and careers, you can always reach out to admissions line, and anything to do with admissions, cost, or credits and transfer, please reach out to us. And can't hear you, Nimisha, you're on mute.
So we are following this. I enrolled in the Advanced Drug Safety and Pharmacovigilance program. So the schedule is what is given to us by the students counselor. Like that's
Yes.
what schedule we are following.
Yes, if there is any change in the schedule, they will share you the updated one. More or less, it stays same. The next class is on 3rd, that's Thursday, and we will reach out to you.
So how we are following? Like we just log into the Teams app, or you guys send us the link, or?
We have student services here. Bhavna, do you want to take this question?
Yes. So what you can do is I have shared the link. You can reach out to us on the number that I have provided in the chat, or else you can write us, an email, and we'll be sharing the login access with you along with the orientation email. We'll also be sending you the login as access through which you can join the teams, and there you can access all the modules that we have uploaded.
Okay, so next Thursday is the information session, or the actual course is starting?
That's the program session, the first class, the
Actual
demo
course.
session.
Oh, it's the first part. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I got the student orientation from you guys and the Teams app login also. So I just wanted to confirm like how the course works. Like you guys send us the login for each day, or we just log into the Teams app and that's how we.
So if you have to view the modules, in that case, you can log into Teams using your credentials, and that's where you can view all the modules that we have uploaded. Talking about the sessions, so how it works is on the schedule, we have, assign you different classes, like weekly, one class or two class, however it is assigned. So that ways we actually create a link and we share with the students, through which you use your credentials and join using the Microsoft Teams.
Okay, so you guys send us the email for the link, or you just put it in the Teams app?
Yeah, as per the class, as and when we'll have classes, as per the schedule, that's when we'll share on in the morning itself, we'll be sharing the link of that particular class.
So you guys send us the email, right?
Over email.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Even your recordings for all the students, it would be available on your Teams app. So we have batch recordings and we have the modules you want to pre-study for the class, or you want to review all the study material that was shared in the class. You will have access to all of it.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any other questions?
I'm good.
Thank you.
I have a question.
All right, and thank you very much, everyone, for patience listening.
Ah,
I look forward to some of you to meet in our regular classes. Thank you.
we had a
Have a
question.
nice evening.
I will call you back, Rachel. I have your